Yo, 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 what's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of EBC Sports International. I'm your host, EJ Gonzalez, coming to you from Alexandria, Virginia. Now, whether you're watching us live or catching up on our YouTube or Facebook page, we thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you're all staying safe and healthy during these interesting times. As always, I'm joined by two of my good friends who I love to talk sports with. From Toronto, Canada, we have Adrian Pangalinan. What's up, bro?
What's up? What's going on, sports world?
Yeah, man, thanks for joining us tonight. And from the nation's capital, welcome back to Ken Cruz.
Hey, guys. So I got to show off this that came in the mail. What's up? From the Lakers. And watch this. Watch this. What's the inside of that? Okay.
What does it say? What does it say?
These are the jerseys, the retired jerseys. So you can see Kobe's the 8, 24. And then here in the back of this is is like a unity thing that they have.
That's pretty cool, man. Do they actually have that on the real ring?
I looked at it. So this one's the LeBron James one, as you can see.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah,
I'm gonna need to get one once my Wizards win.
Well, you should get one for for when the Nationals won.
Oh yeah, actually you're right. Yeah, I'm probably gonna look for that later after this show. But
Amazon.com. I'm the plug, guys.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. And again, before we go on, just want to remind our viewers that we are by no means experts, but rather a good group of friends expressing our own opinions and share that same passion of sports. Now, before we get into our discussions, let's catch you guys up on some recent sports news. First up, soccer news with Adrian. What's up, man?
Yes, sir, EJ. Just as quickly as a breakaway Super League was announced, the plans have been put on hold. Initially, the Super League confirmed 12 major clubs, including Barcelona, Inter Milan, Real Madrid, Liverpool, and Arsenal, among others, would participate in the said league. The football matches would be scheduled as a midweek tournament, which would be in direct competition to the UEFA Champions League. The league was set to have a budget of $6 billion and would begin during the 2023-2024 season, but UEFA and FIFA, the governing bodies of Europe and international football, begrudged the very idea. UEFA stated, quote, "We will consider all measures available to us at all levels, both judicial and sporting, in order to prevent this happening," end quote. In addition, those clubs would be banned from competing at the domestic, European, and international levels. The idea made sense for the 12 teams invited, as they would be able to generate billions of dollars, but it left many who detested the very idea. Many fans showed up to the arenas to protest the breakaway league and targeted the message directly at the owners of the clubs with accusations of greed or killing the competition. Since then, we have seen nearly all of the clubs back out and release official apologies to the fan base. The plan for the Super League was not the first time such a plan was rumored, and it likely will not be the last, as there is still hope amongst the organizers that the idea can be quote-unquote reformed. Back to you, EJ.
Wow, thanks, Adrian. Definitely very intriguing story over there. But now a tragic story regarding the death of Kentucky freshman guard Terrence Clarke. Ken's got the scoop.
Yes, Terrence Clarke, just 19 years of age, tragically died Thursday night in Los Angeles after a car accident that occurred at 2:10 p.m. PST. The Los Angeles Police Department reported that surveillance captured Clarke was driving at a high speed and ran a red light. Clarke was the only one in his vehicle, but struck another car that was turning left and eventually hit a pole and a block wall. He was brought to Northridge Hospital and was pronounced dead, where his mother was by his side. Last month, Clarke had declared that he would be entering the 2021 draft. Many college-level and pro-level players and coaches went on to Twitter to declare their condolences on his tragic loss. Kentucky coach John Calipari said that he was gutted and deeply saddened by the news and added, quote, "Terrence Clarke was a beautiful kid, someone who owned the room with his personality, smile, and joy. People gravitated to him, and to hear we have lost him is just hard for all of us to comprehend right now," end quote. Coach Calipari said that he's going to Los Angeles to join Terrence's brother and mother to provide any support, any kind of support and help that he can. Back to you, EJ.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, definitely some sad news, and our sympathies definitely go to the Clark family and the University of Kentucky. Now, lastly, some other big news, but for Kobe fans as well as sneaker collectors who adored the Nike Kobe line. The post-retirement endorsement extension that Kobe Bryant had with Nike has officially expired, and Vanessa Bryant, along with the Kobe Bryant estate, decided not to renew the partnership with the sportswear giant. According to Vanessa Bryant, the widow of Kobe, told reporters that the contract ended on April 13th and acknowledged the history and iconic silhouettes that many fans and players adore even till this day. Nike presented an offer to extend the contract, but it was not in line to a lifetime extension offer similar to those held by Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Since the tragic passing of Kobe, Vanessa and the Bryant estate were unsatisfied with Nike in confining the availability of Kobe's products. Vanessa said that her hope is to allow Kobe's fans to get and wear his product, and will continue to do everything they can to honor the legacies of both Kobe and Gigi. The Bryant estate owns the rights to the Mamba logo and his signature. Despite not renewing the contract with Nike, Nike said Kobe will forever remain a deeply loved member of the Nike family. And now you guys are caught up. Okay. What's up?
As a shoe head, I need to know your opinion on this. If we're not talking about it later, what are your thoughts on this?
No. I mean, when you think of Nike, when you think of Kobe, you think of Nike, and vice versa, right? I mean, how many NBA players do you see on the court wearing Kobe shoes? I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the most popular worn silhouette in the league, if I'm not mistaken, Kobe Bryant shoes. So, I mean, it just goes to show you how much fans and co-players love to wear his products. I think it's sad that they couldn't come to an agreement. Now, I remember there was rumors about Kobe starting his own shoe line before his tragic passing, that he was about to pull the plug with Nike, and maybe that's what really swayed, Vanessa and the Bryant estate to make that decision. But
what I'm curious with is that, like, it's all pull, right? Like, as far as like when you get new shoes, and like, I mean, look at all these Zion commercials for his Zion 1 drop, right? It's all his face. With Kobe being, with Kobe having passed, like, how strong do you think this brand can be, knowing that it's for a person that passed away? I mean, that, and like, do you think it could be like, in quality wise, it's all about quality, right? I mean, look what happened with Triple B, the Big Baller brand. It didn't work out because the quality didn't match what the price range was. I mean, I don't know. Like, do you think that despite like all this, like, they can come up with an actual product that is worthwhile and worth the Mamba logo,
Right. It's going to be tough. I mean, Nike, I think Vanessa wasn't happy that Nike couldn't put up as much sneakers as they wanted, but just look at how many fans there are of Kobe, and especially after his passing, people who honored him and just loved what he stood for, and really realized, the Mamba mentality. And I think no matter where they go, the products are going to sell out, and it's going to be a tough thing to follow. But again, it's the legacy of Kobe. I look at Michael Jordan's shoes; it's still significant today, and he hasn't played. I'm pretty sure a lot of the kids who collect his sneakers have never seen even a highlight of Michael Jordan playing.
Except for last year, right? The Last Dance.
Right. Exactly.
As a huge Kobe fan, like, I get where Vanessa's coming from, because since his passing, the only shoes that have been available, like, other than like 10 seconds for any of these pro shows, is the Mamba Fury, and nobody in their right mind is going to spend their money on a shoe that's the lower end of the shoe line, right? I mean, like, all the big shoes, KD, LeBron, Kyrie's, they all have their lower end, and that's that's okay, and I get why they want to have that. But if you're someone looking for a performance Kobe shoe, those aren't available unless you're willing to spend $800-900, and that's not feasible for anybody. I've been trying to get my hands on a pair of Kobe's, but it's just been impossible. And so I think that if the quality is good, I agree with this move.
Yeah, I mean, and if they're keeping that Mamba logo and signature, I think, no matter what, it's going to be a recognizable icon. So we're just going to have to see what happens. But I think there is a sore spot in my heart knowing that we're never going to see those old Kobe's re-retroed or anything like that. Well, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But now you're caught up with some updates from the sports world. We're itching to talk sports. So after the break, we'll get right into it. EBC Sports International. We'll be right back.
Kaya niyo po ba?
Kakayanin ko. Kailangan mahanap natin ang ano. Sige.
Tanda na po.
Kilala niyo po ba siya?
Benedict Salazar. Alam ko na ang sikreto mo, Maya.
Dalhin mo ako sa location ng hilaw na Espanyol.
Nag-hire na ako, boss. Nagagawa niya para sa'yo.
Ako na mismo gagawa ng trabaho para sigurado tapos.
Pero may bisita eh.
Ano nga?
Tago ka. Huwag kang gagalaw dyan.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, let's tip off our discussions for tonight. Man, it seems like week after week, there's a new injury. So let's talk about James Harden. This week, James Harden experienced a setback with his hamstring injury. The Nets announced that Harden will now be out indefinitely. Harden made a huge impact the moment he started playing with Brooklyn, enough to warrant himself to be in the conversation for MVP this year. On top of that, Durant has been in and out of the lineup with his own injury. Kyrie has been in and out of the lineup due to his injury and personal reasons. And then the Nets' big three of Durant, Kyrie, and Harden have only played a total of 7 games together this season. It's pretty crazy, but I want to get you guys' take on the setback of James Harden first, right? How much does James' absence affect the final games for Brooklyn? Adian, I'm going to start with you.
I like to think it affects them a lot, but everybody in the Nets camp doesn't seem to be bothered by the fact that they've only played 7 games together. I see a lot of red flags here, man. This is Kyrie who's taken games off for personal reasons, and he's been injured a few times and he's had to rest. Kevin Durant has only like 30-something games under his belt, and he hasn't been healthy of late. And now this happening to James Harden. Maybe they know a secret. Maybe they're keeping a secret recipe for the end, for the playoffs. That if they don't show this lineup together, they'll be able to beat everybody. But I mentioned it last week. I'm not seeing it. There's a lot of red flags here. Like on paper, I still believe they're the best team in the East. But I mean, if James Harden is not playing at James Harden MVP levels going into the playoffs, like there's a little bit there to worry about because they don't have all the momentum they need.
Right. Exactly, and it's all about that teamwork or that consistency of being able to be on the court together and getting that relationship on the court together. And they haven't been able to have that with only 7 games under their belt. But you know, even before Brooklyn got James Harden, right? They were considered to be one of, if not the leader of the East. So now that James Harden is not available for them, do you think, now that they just rely on just the 2 stars, do you think that that's going to affect their final games or end their outcome this season?
You know, health as well. Were you asking me, EJ, or sorry, Adian?
No, Adian, go ahead. If you have something to say on that, what were your thoughts on that one?
All I was going to say is it's not going to affect the regular season standings as much. All that matters is the playoffs for them. Kyrie is enough to get them into a top 4 seed in the East. And if he has like a Kevin Durant and James Harden alongside him, all the better. So I'm not too worried about their seeding. But they're going to make the playoffs. It's just a matter of, will they have enough chemistry? Will they be tested enough? Will they be able to build the defensive cohesion? Those are all like potential red flags, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, definitely understandable. And the loss of LaMarcus Aldridge that they didn't see coming. And that was a huge signing, and all of a sudden that dissipated. So, Ken, now that, LaMarcus Aldridge is gone, and now James Harden has this setback, how does this affect the outcome of the season? I want to add, Charles Barkley said that he's picking the Bucks to come out of the East now. And Jalen Rose, he mentioned that this won't be the year that the Nets come out of the East, which is crazy. But do you agree with those comments by either Charles or Jalen?
Well, this can't be. I mean, unless they miraculously come back together in the beginning of the playoffs to do a run. Because look at the injury itself, right? James Harden has a hamstring injury that was re-aggravated just doing regular drills on this last Monday's practice. So what that means is that it's nowhere near. You go from getting close to being on the court to going back to to square one, and pretty much this means that he's probably going to be sidelined until the beginning of the playoffs. Yes. When they're on the court, the three of them, they're going to be able to, they're great. But you also got to remember that at the same time, playoffs are a whole different animal. I mean, these guys are all playoff veterans. But at the same time, too, Harden is one to not show up in the biggest moment. So you're not going to be comfortable on the court. We'll talk about AD later, but just going off of that example, everyone comes back rusty, and you're not gonna come in expecting to play, 48 minutes. AD played 15 yesterday. 16, and so you're gonna come in trying to play. And look where they're at right now, right? They're number 2. Look who's number 7. I know there's a whole play-in tournament, but number 7 right now are the Miami Heat. They went to the finals last year, and those guys only got strong. Jimmy Butler said, all we need is to get to the playoffs, and I'll take it from there. Those are brave words, but this guy actually backs it up. He has a squad, they're rounding up, and what's their record? Yeah, they're 31-29. The Nets, I believe they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. Maybe, I think 6-5 now. They just beat the Celtics tonight. But the big thing is that, just watching that game versus the Lakers the other day, I think it was a week ago, they were exposed as far as bigs, and that's where I think Charles Barkley makes a big case that the Bucks look better right now because they're big, and that's the Nets' weakness. Even if they had the big three, and you have Drew Holiday who's playing big right now, I feel like the Bucks quietly are becoming favorites, and them being under the limelight behind the 76ers, the Nets, and even the Knicks, as far as media exposure, because they've just been overexposed throughout the season, they have a chance to run and still be number 1 this year. Look, they're only 2.5 games behind number 1. And so there's a chance that if, let's say, the 76ers rest Embiid or Ben Simmons, which Ben Simmons didn't play last night, that's and the Nets are going to be resting these guys. I feel like they have a chance to go back to number 1 and then have home court throughout their entire Eastern Conference, and that with crowds now, that's going to actually make a difference. So I feel like this is the Nets are in deep water, and I feel like they're going to have to swim out of this. And I don't know how they're going to do that if they can't have their big 3 on the court.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's been such a roller coaster for the Brooklyn Nets. Going into the season, they didn't know what to expect with Kevin Durant, right? Because he's coming back from a major injury, but he showed it was great. So high hopes now. Then they get James Harden, even higher hopes. They're looking at definite championship contention as soon as James Harden joins, and then all of a sudden, and then they added Blake Griffin and Marcus Aldridge, even higher hopes. Like the ceiling was broken off. Like it's insane. Now they're facing so many setbacks. And again, if that chemistry isn't there, I don't know what we can expect of them in the playoffs, especially when you really need to ride a hot hand. But if you're starting to plug in these players, like these guys were supposed to have chemistry throughout the season, and now you're going to plug them in very last minute, it's going to be hard, unpredictable to see what
it's a huge question mark.
Playoffs. Yeah,
it's just a huge question mark because it's all unprecedented territory, right? When have we seen a team who has like 3 solid scorers, not solid, like Hall of Fame level scorers, make it to the playoffs, and then they have only played 7 games together? Like I keep going back to the point, like on paper, they're solid. They should be a finals contender, but they don't have even a top 10 defense. They're like basically just league average when it comes to defense, and they still haven't found a serviceable big man to protect the paint. They traded their best big man, Jarrett Allen, who is the only guy who would actually defend the rim, and Kevin Durant might be the second best shot blocker aside from like Nick Claxton maybe, but like either of those guys are not primary rim protectors. So yeah, man, all I'm saying is a lot of question marks there.
Well, you know what's something also to consider is the fact that Steve Nash is a first-year rookie coach. So he's going to go up against, Eric Spoelstra, Brad Stevens, even Coach Bud has way more experience under his belt, and that pays off in the playoffs, where the game, as I mentioned, the games are going to slow down. You're going to see the same team over and over, and if you're not able to adjust on a game-to-game basis, then you're just going to get run out of the building. I mean, no matter how good your players are, if you're not giving them the proper minutes, if you're not having the proper rotations, and then if you're not able to adjust how they're adjusting to you, it's really a chess match. I mean, Frank Vogel, I think, did an amazing job last year, writing out his team, and that's what showed. And it also, and I think that is something that's not spoken about enough, is that when the playoffs come, coaches play a huge role.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're, again, 7-game series against guys who's been there before, and this is going to be your first time. There's just so many question marks right now. I mean, I was excited to see the big 3 play together, but we just haven't been able to have that taste this season yet. And, hopefully they get healthy and are there for the playoffs. But now let's talk about a star who's returned from injury. As Ken mentioned earlier, Anthony Davis made his return on the court after being out with that right calf strain for at least 2 weeks, or for 2.5 months. And I put air quotes there because to me, his injury looked more like an Achilles injury, similar to what KD experienced a couple years back. But the Lakers lost to the Dallas Mavericks, and AD was limited to just 17 minutes for the game. He finished with 4 points on 2 of 10 shooting, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 1 block. All right, so we got to start with the Laker fan of the group, Ken. How do you feel about how AD looked at his return, and do you think that the Lakers might be rushing him back?
I mean, I don't think you could rush back 15 minutes, right? I mean, at the end of the day, he has to get his court time. He looked horrible, honestly. I mean, he looked uncomfortable. I mean, he had a couple good shots where they were completely in rhythm, but at the same time, too, it was one of those things where, like, you can tell he was rusty. You can tell he was a little bit nervous being away from the game and just being on the sidelines for 30 games. I mean, it's tough, and everyone's already like in mid-end season form. And I think also him being on the court with another guy that looks almost exactly like him in physique and the other AD, Andre Drummond, they just didn't click, and that's going to take some time. I mean, the guy is also a rebounder, and he's gonna clog up the paint, and so that's why like most of AD's shots were outside of the paint. But you have to be able to figure out a good mix, because AD is a lot more effective in the paint himself, down in the block, especially against a smaller defender. And so I think that requires some time, and that's why when he was with Montrezl Harrell, he looked a little bit more fluid, because those guys have played together. And so that was the first game with the other AD, And one thing I wanted to bring up is that AD himself looks like he's just, Andre Drummond. I got to stop saying AD. Andre Drummond himself, he still looks like he put a great stat line last night, right? 14 and 19. But you can tell that this guy's still not used to playing the Lakers system. Not getting back in defense on time, not knowing what to do with the ball when it's the ball's thrown into him. I mean, I think when LeBron James gets on the court, which I hope is in the next week or two before the season ends, I think that's going to solve a lot of problems. I know it's not a great strategy to put all of your eggs and your hopes into one guy, but if there's one guy that you can rely on to right the ship, and what I have to say that I'm very surprised with, and all the people said this, all the media, everyone on Reddit said the Lakers are going to win like one game out of the next like 15, 20 without AD and LeBron. And that kind of looked like it was going to be that way. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, with great coaching and all these guys buying in on their defense, even without their two stars, they still remain the number one defense in the league. I think if they stay true to their defensive principles, I think they'll be fine. And adding AD back, no matter how many minutes he plays, I think that's a positive. As long as he finds his stroke, he finds his confidence by the time the playoffs come, I think they'll be fine, honestly.
Okay, well, fair enough. I mean, you're the Laker guy, so we gotta have your take on that one. But Adrian, how do you feel about AD? How AD looked in his return?
Look, there's still some concerns with how deep they went into the season last year, going all the way to 6 games in the finals, and then having a shortened off season and a guy who's had previous injuries. It's got to be concerning. Mind you, I don't think he's had any concerns with his actual Achilles or calf. So this might be a first for him, but at the same time, he's a guy who's known to take large portions of the season out. And you top that with LeBron being out. Those are big concerns because LeBron's not that young anymore. He's, 35, 36 years old? And 36. He's not recovering. He's not going to be able to recover as quickly as he used to. So I just think, it's a little concerning. I wouldn't rush AD back into it because wins are not a priority at this point. It's got to be health. Once you're in the playoffs, all that matters is you're still a top defensive team. You still have arguably the best player in the league and arguably the best defender in the league, and you're defending champ, so you still got that swag. Either way, the Lakers shouldn't be too concerned about AD playing so poorly right now. I'd be more so concerned if it's like 3 games to the playoffs and he's still not, playing enough minutes.
If he still looks like Charles Barkley when his powers were taken off in Space Jam, before by the end of the season, then that's a concern. But right. I feel like eventually he's gonna find that, he's gonna click, get that, I'm Anthony Davis feeling eventually, and then start rocking with it. So.
Right, get his powers back from the ball.
Yeah,
Great thoughts,
right.
Great thoughts, fellas. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have some more NBA talk. This is EBC Sports International. Please stick around.
The extended quarantines compelled us to continue doing things online, and for some of our children, and I'm sure a lot of adults out there was more time to spend on their favorite RPGs or role-playing video games. RPGs are presenting incredible universes with high fantasy kingdoms. We see knights and different worlds, all products of creativity and imagination. The good news is video gamers now have an option to play Filipino-designed games that place Philippine pop culture, history, and tradition in the gaming experience. Today, we will showcase the talents and skills of Filipinos in creating and developing game and mobile applications that incorporate the Filipino culture for both local and international audiences.
So I want sa mga kabataan na gawing passion yung gaming, not because na maging addictive, and also para bigyan ng goals sa sarili mo. Hindi yung enjoyment ang kailangan mo. Kailangan mo is to learn something. Use the gaming para magkaroon ka ng sariling goal.
John Marie Luistro, the president of Boom Brain Studio, will join us in this episode, Open for Business.
Welcome back to EBC Sports International. Thanks again for sticking with us. Let's talk about the best scorers in the NBA this season. The Wizards and the Warriors faced off this past Wednesday, and that featured the two leading scorers in the league, Stephen Curry and Bradley Beal. Curry was on a historic run entering the game and became the first player in NBA history to hit at least 50 three-pointers over a 6-game span and averaged over 40 points for the month of April. However, the Washington Wizards were able to defeat the Warriors and held Curry to only 18 points on 7 of 25 shooting, while Beal finished the game with 29 points. Now, the point differential between these two guys for the scoring title is only 1/10 of a point, with Curry ahead with 31.1 points per game and Beal at 31.0 points per game. So I want to get you guys' take here. I know I'm biased to Bradley Beal, but I want to get you guys' take. Who will come out with the scoring title this year? Let's start with you, Adian.
I'm going to go with Bradley Beal. And that might be a surprise to you because Stephen Curry is on a tear right now. But I just think you got to look at the motivation of the team. Do the Warriors really want to make the playoffs? I don't see it. Like, they're sitting James Wiseman out because of injury for the rest of the regular season. And I'm sure they would welcome another high lottery pick if they didn't make the playoffs and they were closer to the bottom of the standings. So I don't see them competing, and I can see them shutting down Curry a couple of games, resting him whenever they need to. And because of that alone, because Bradley Beal has more to compete for, I feel like he'll get that scoring title. And there's been plenty of times when Curry had a chance to break his own record, or rather Klay Thompson's record, but he's up there close to the record so many times with multiple 10 three-pointer games. He's had a chance, and then Steve Kerr decided to sit him. I can just see that scenario playing out over and over throughout this regular season. So if he wants to get his, he's got to get it all done in 3 quarters.
That's a good point. Well, I could agree. I can disagree and say that the Warriors want to get into the playoffs. They would be honestly one of the more scarier teams to face if they hold that 10th spot for that play-in tournament. But Ken, how about you, man? Do you agree? Who you going with, Beal or Curry for the scoring title this year?
I mean, a healthy Curry is probably, honestly, the best shooter that the league has ever seen and may potentially ever see. It's insane. Like he matched. I think he broke Kobe's record of 10 plus games over the age of 33 at over 30 points. So let's break this down. These last that other than the 18-point game, which the Wizards were able to hold up to, which you mentioned earlier, the 11 games: 32, 36, 37, 41, 32, 38, 53, 42, 33, 47, 49, and then of course the 18-point game, right? Those are insane numbers. Insane numbers. Where does he stand right now? Right now, he's averaging 31.1 points per game, and by points, he's at 1588, while Bradley Beal, I don't think this is counting tonight. This is off of basketballreference.com.
Right.
1521, right? So that's like what, 67 off, which is nothing to any of these guys. And the Wizards might be a couple games back behind because of catch up of the COVID protocols the first half of the season. But I think that with and to the point of like, are the Warriors going to rest Steph Curry? You guys know that Steph Curry is a hardcore hooper, and I don't think he would allow himself, especially if he's healthy, to be benched. Even if they're like 10 games out of reaching the play-in game, he would force himself. He would force Coach Kerr to play him as many minutes as he's allowed to be played, and that's because this guy's just a hooper. He loves hooping. I mean, you've seen the off-season videos of him like hooping with random guys in Oakland. You know, like the guy just likes to play ball, and so I think that and this guy, unlike Beal, who's been an amazing top-tier scorer the entire season. Steph Curry, on the other hand, I mean, he had a couple great games. I think he had a 62-point game at the beginning of the year. But like as I mentioned, and when I read off those numbers, he's doing this now towards the end of the season. So I think he's found his stroke, he's found his confidence, and as they're pushing, I think he's going to continue to, especially with as AD mentioned, James Wiseman's out. He's going to continue to push to get more. He's going to have more minutes. He's going to have the ball as much as he wants, and his teammates are going to feed him because he shoots at a higher clip than anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, both of their narratives. They both need to score to win games for their teams, both Beal and Curry. It's crazy because especially with Washington trying to hold on to that 10th spot, if not be able to go further up on that ladder. And as you mentioned, Adian, Curry can get 30-plus points in 3 quarters. That's 10 points a quarter. The dude can do that in his sleep, man. It's a toss-up for me. It's hard to bet against arguably the best shooter who's ever graced the floor in Steph Curry. But please, I need Bradley Beal to get this. And what's not being talked about enough, this is a Russell Westbrook effect, if you ask me. Look what he's been able to do with the players whenever he joins a new team. PG was in MVP talks. Paul George was in MVP talks when he was in OKC. And he was with Kevin Durant when he got his MVP year. If the Wizards were winning way more games this year, Bradley Beal, I think, would be in the talk for MVP. And I just think it's the Russell Westbrook effect. But going back to these two teams, all right, entering tonight, Friday night, both the Wizards and the Warriors own the 10th spot in their conferences. So I want to ask you guys, do you see both of these teams holding on to their 10th spot, going up? And who would be the tougher opponent in the East and in the West, whether it's the Warriors or the Wizards? Ken, I'll start with you on that one.
So obviously it's going to be the Warriors, right? They have the championship experience. They have the championship coach, 3 of these in the last 5 years, 6 years. But I think what people haven't seen is the nightmare matchup, right? The nightmare matchup would be if somehow the Nets got first or they stay second and the Wizards go either 8th or 7th and match up against the Nets. What's their record against the Nets this season, EJ? Let me ask you.
2-0, baby. 2-0.
2-0, right? So they have it in their mind that they can beat these Nets, and they have. And so I think that's the nightmare matchup is if the Wizards somehow match up in the first round against an unhealthy Nets team, oh my goodness. That would be a dream come true. If they match up against the 76ers or the Bucks, I don't see them pulling out an upset. But if I see it 100% in the Wizards' favor if they somehow get into this play-in tournament, they win those 2 games and they match up against the Nets, and which means that they've won 2 games in a row. They're going to be confident. They're going to be coming in, and all they're going to do is win a straight 4 against a hobbled team. I see a huge chance for an upset.
I'm smiling ear to ear, man. You are getting my hopes up, and I hope the Wizards do it. But Adrian, let me get your take, man. Do you think that these guys are going to hold on to their play-in tournament positions right now at the 10th spot, go up higher, and who would be the tougher opponent in your eyes?
Do I think the Wizards will hang on to that position? The way they're playing right now, it makes me believe they will. Them and the Raptors they have tied records, yet the Wizards, they're half a game ahead right now, and they're currently in that 10th position. But they're both teams are hot right now. They're the 2 best teams at the bottom of the East, and it looks like the Bulls are fading because Zach LaVine is out with the COVID safety protocol. I mean, we'll see. I don't think the Wizards have what it takes to beat the Heat. I don't want to get your hopes up too high there because again, the Heat, they've been to the finals. They got Jimmy Butler. They got proven players in the playoffs. Bam Adebayo, he's kind of having an on and off year, but man, that team is scary. I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs. And then, yeah, if they do somehow get past the Heat, if I'm going to pick a team to play in the upper echelon of the East, it's got to be the Nets, because right now they're, like we said, just so many question marks. But to go back to your question, who do I think will be better? I'm going to have to agree with Ken here. It's got to be the Warriors. Steph Curry, championship pedigree. Although I'm not exactly sure what their agenda is. Do they want to make the playoffs? Do they not? If they do want to make the playoffs, then why aren't they like pushing Curry to play more? I just think they're really trying to grasp that. What do we do now versus what is the big picture when Klay Thompson gets back? I think there's just too many things they have to contemplate within that organization, and if they even believe in James Wiseman, and if they think that they can get a good pick out of the Timberwolves after they did that Andrew Wiggins trade. Who knows? There's a lot of question marks with the Warriors, and if they even want to win, I think.
Yeah, fair points. I mean, I'm just hoping that my Wizards get in there, so we're gonna have to wait and see what happens with the Warriors. But I'm paying attention to the Wizards. But let's show some love for the franchise who has turned it around this year. Look out, everyone. The Knicks are the hottest team in the NBA, winning 8 straight games. This week, they took on the Atlanta Hawks and defeated them in overtime to take sole possession of the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. Julius Randle finished with 40 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists in that victory over Atlanta. Now, I want to shout out Joel T, who is our biggest New York Knicks fan on the show. I'm sure he's super happy, and deservedly so. He made the argument in our group chat that Julius Randle should be in MVP talks. Do you guys agree with that? I'm going to start with you, Adian. Let's hear. Do you think he needs to be in MVP talks? At least top 10.
Absolutely. He's raised his game to the point where he is a good decision maker. He's a solid passer, averaging, 6 assists a game. The points are there, the rebounds are there, and the wins are there. So I don't think that's really an argument. I don't think he is the MVP because we have Joel Embiid and we have Nikola Jokic, but he's not too far behind. To say he's maybe 3rd would be kind of like pushing it. That's too hot of a take, I think. And I've heard Kendrick Perkins say that. That's a little too far for me, but man, he's inspired a fan base to like believe in the organization again. And like you've seen Stephen A. Smith going crazy about his Knicks, and even Spike Lee, and all of the New York fan base for that matter. So like either way, it's a good thing for New York City.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Ken, I want to ask you, man, the Knicks look great, but what's their ceiling this season? And how do you feel about their chances this year?
Well, I mean, right now they're number 4, right? And they just beat the Hawks, as you mentioned, in overtime. And so they would be, if the playoffs started tomorrow, they would be matched against the Hawks. With Trae Young being out right now, I mean, how long is he out for? Maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah, no timetable right now. Yeah, they're just going to get it. But negative on the MRIs, yeah.
Right. Still though, right? It takes a while to get your legs back. No matter how much time you take off. So with a Knicks team that has won 8 in a row, with a Tom Thibodeau defense, the only thing that you have to consider is how just like with what happened with Tom Thibodeau and coach with the other teams that he's coached, you got to consider is like how much can you push your players without an injury happening? And with the way that this condensed season has happened, there's a high chance that if you continue to play your players this much, they're going to get the injury. And as a proud father of Julius Randle, who's drafted by the Lakers and former Laker, I'm so happy to see this guy, thriving, striving, and doing well and leading his team. It's amazing, and even as a Laker fan, I feel like the Knicks, when they're good, the NBA only benefits because they're a huge market team. The quote unquote the Metro basketball, right? And so it's one of those things where it'll only bring in more fans. You see those guys celebrating outside of Madison Square Garden after that win, the overtime win, as if they won
a championship.
It's so amazing to see, and I love it. You know, like it's like I've been to covered a game in the MS, the Madison Square Garden a couple seasons ago, and man, like the atmosphere, and even though the team was bad at the time, like it's electrifying, and that's why Zion says that it's his favorite place to play. He's just like, oh yeah, other than New Orleans, no, it's his favorite place to play. Like, this guy, after his rookie contract is done, you know where he wants to go. He's trying to go to New York.
Eyes open to the Knicks, and especially if they stay high.
He was like, I'm glad you asked that question. I was like,
I know. Well, great takes, guys. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more basketball and get our question of the week. So EBC Sports International will be right back.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Rise up every Saturday morning sa mga balitang dapat mong malaman sa Agila, Pilipinas at Eagle News International. Sa Winner Saturdays, panalo naman ang hapon mo sa mga talento ng Pinoy sa kantahan sa Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 Singing Edition at Letters and Music. Meron din sa mga sports lovers, EBC Sports International. And get to know more about entrepreneurship with Open for Business. Sa Weekends Prime, tuloy-tuloy ang pagbabalita sa mata ng Agila Weekend. Samahan naman si Miss Gladys Reyes Sumero sa kwentuhang pampamilya, Moments. At abangan ang bagong kwento na handog sa inyo ng Net25. Patutunayan na ang nakalimutan ng isip, naaalala ng puso. Ikaw ay akin. Mula umaga hanggang gabi, panalo ang Sabado mo. All that and more, only here on Net25.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's do our final topic before we get into the question of the week. So there are roughly 10 to 15 games left for the teams to play in the NBA this regular season, and then the play-in tournament starts. So that's just around the corner. For those who don't know, we mentioned last week, but here's the setup. 9th and 10th in each conference, the 9th and 10th seed will play each other, and the loser is eliminated. For the 7th and 8th, the winner moves into the playoff bracket right away, but the loser has to play the winner of that 9th and 10th seed game. So let's take a look on the screen, and you'll see the current rankings heading into Friday night. There's still a lot of wiggle room from spot 6 to 10 in both conferences, and there's some at 11 and 12 right now who also have who have a chance but are not in that picture. But want to get you guys' takes. Do you see any movement in the upcoming weeks? Who do you think is going to stay in their positions? I'll start with you, Adian.
I see the Pacers maybe falling out of it a little bit. They haven't had a lot of good luck with injuries. Miles Turner has been out for the past few games. He's been their primary rim protector, and I don't think they have very many serviceable big men aside from Sabonis. So I do see them dropping a few games, potentially falling their way out of the entire playoff picture. But it is a pretty decent gap for the Wizards or whoever it might be, the Raptors, to pick up those 2 games. So that'll be interesting to see. And the Celtics, they seem to have been winning. They seem to be like a legit contender. They're 4th in net rating as of today. So that usually indicates you're like a true contender in the entire league. So maybe they have a chance to climb. They could take up 5th or 4th seed.
Okay, that's interesting take. They did lose to the Nets this evening, but Ken, both Boston and the Trailblazers, record-wise, they're in jeopardy of falling into that play-in tournament, right? To lose that coveted 6th and up spot and fall into 7. So who's more likely, do you think, to lose their current spot and fall into the play-in tournament?
You know what? I think it's going to be the Hawks. Without Trae Young, with day-to-day Trae Young, they lose 1-2 games. Look, right now they're at 33-27, right? Same record as the Knicks at 4th. But the Hornets, or actually the Heat, are only 2 games behind at 31-29 at number 7, right? So, which means that you lose a couple games, and the Celtics and the Heat win, a couple games, then that means the Hawks are at 7. The one that I think is going to climb, or not even climb, but I think it doesn't get it may make a good run in the playoff tournament. Is the play-in tournament are the Hornets, because as you guys know, there's talk of LaMelo Ball potentially coming back, and if he comes back, I mean, like that, and like his legs should be fine because he just messed up his wrist. So I mean, I'm sure that he can pass with his offhand for now. While his other wrist, continues to heal. I feel like those guys would come in strong. Gordon Hayward has good playoff experience. So I feel like they are the team that you don't want to see in the playoff tournament. Obviously the Heat, as AD mentioned earlier, but I think those guys are the ones that you got to really watch out for. And then real quick to the West Coast. The Blazers, it's tough too. Dame's been out, Nurkic has been out, and the Mavs are starting to sizzle. Except KP got hurt last night. So KP got hurt last night.
They're used to playing without him. They're used to playing without him.
Correct. And as long as Doncic is on the court, like I feel like the sky is the limit with these guys. There's you have a guy that's the mini LeBron James, being able to do all these like Magic Johnson moves. I feel like, and he's a winner. Like I feel like even if they remain at 7, I would be confident that they remain at 7 and win that one game that they need to in order to stay in the playoffs, even against the Spurs or the Warriors. I feel like, but at the same time too, like if they get to 6, awesome. The Blazers are the ones that I would be worried about. But at the same time too, if Dame Time comes back and plays those play-in games, you shouldn't be worried.
Yeah, exactly. You always have a chance if Dame's on the floor, but I mean, it just sucks.
100%.
Yeah, it just sucks seeing the Blazers at this time. I mean, like when everybody was unhealthy, and it was only Damian Lillard, and he was able to carry them on his shoulder and go all the way up to the 4th spot. And now with Dame unhealthy, they've lost, I think, 7 of their last 10. Like they are in bad shape.
It's unfortunate, and for as long as I've been, like really following the NBA, which is what, like 20-something years of my life, like I feel like they've just been cursed with injuries.
Sure.
It's very, very unfortunate to see, the Portland, which is a great basketball city, continue to suffer over and over. I feel like they deserve at least one good playoff run with everyone healthy, and that's something that you haven't seen. I think the last time was against the Lakers, where they lost in OT versus Kobe when he made those ridiculous 3-point shots. Remember that? I think it was like Patterson. Yeah, and that was back in 2000. That was the last time I've seen them strong, and since then, it's always been at least one guy hobbled or multiple guys hobbled during their playoffs, and that's prevented them from actually making deep playoff runs.
Yeah, I know.
They've been to the Western Conference Finals, though. They were in the Western Conference Finals 2018, I think it was, the year they beat the Cavs in 4 games.
Was that the bye-bye year?
Yeah, I think when they beat Was it when they beat Houston? When they upset Houston, right? They make good runs.
Warriors beat Houston, and then the Blazers played the Warriors in the conference finals, and they got swept. Right. But basically, they were in every game. They were leading by like 20.
But was that when Nurkic was
and then the Warriors
would
come back and win?
Was Nurkic playing that day? That series?
Yeah, he was. That was the only time they were like
they were healthy,
to fully loaded. Yeah,
right.
Well,
yeah, no.
So were the Warriors, unfortunately, right? I mean, that's
right.
That's unfortunate.
Year after year, it's always that's the luck of the Blazers. I feel like year after year, somebody gets hurt, and that just ruins their momentum.
Though. Yeah, this would have been the year because everyone's hurt everywhere, and so let's say if they were healthy. If they were healthy, they could have been a jazz story this year. They could have been the Jazz.
I mean, it's always whoever's the healthiest. Honestly, I think this season, whoever's the healthiest team.
Nah, this is 17. I mean, unless I have a daughter coming up, and like,
right, that's what I'm saying.
She gets bored on like a specific day, then maybe. Let's
exactly.
that when that comes. Yeah.
All right. How about you, Adion? What jersey number do you wear?
Yeah, man, it's got to be 21, and it's a boring reason. Tim Duncan, number 21. I wanted to name my firstborn child. Say that again.
It's a boring reason for sure. Yep, you're right.
I was gonna name my firstborn child Duncan, but I had a girl, and then my second child was gonna be Duncan. I had another girl. Third child was gonna be Duncan, another girl. So the Duncan name is still reserved.
Girl dad. So you're always gonna be rocking number 21 then.
Yeah, of course, you got it.
Well, I used to rock 10 growing up. High School Musical. Shout out to Troy Bolton. He wore number 10. But anyway, that's not the reason. That's not the reason why I wore number 10. That's not the reason why I wore number 10. I don't know why I like number 10. It's just a nice, even number. It was just coincidence that Troy Bolton wore number 10. I was just like, hey, everybody wears number 10. But after I got married, our anniversary date is the 20th. So now I rock 20 on my jersey. So double up 10, double up the 10. Yeah. So that's all we have.
10, 2.
Yeah, 10, 2. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this week's edition of EBC Sports International. Thanks to everyone. On behalf of everyone on our panel, thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to tune in again next week. Make sure to visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at EagleNewsPH to join the conversation. For EBC Sports International, I'm EJ Gonzalez, and we live in interesting times.